Welcome to the mills. This is one of the 4 biggest mills in Hong Kong for textiles. It was then reappropriated, curated for our generation, for the millennials and Generation Z. The shops and the restaurants, as well as activities here, are for our generation, but in contact with its roots and its heritage of fabric, of textiles, of fashion.
After entering the building through the escalator, a collage of shops and restaurants present itself right in front of my eyes. There are some vending machines on the side. The purple vending machine is vending ice creams for dogs, which was very interesting. This also proves that this place is not only for humans, but is also for pet owners, and they're very pet friendly in the whole place. By taking the escalator to the next floor, you would see the rooftop garden. The first thing I noticed on the rooftop garden was a gigantic mural made of metal flaps. The flaps illustrated the history of textiles in Hong Kong and the methods used. The designer also printed some historical textile patterns on the metal flaps. When the wind blows across the mural in the right direction, the wind would carry the flaps, breathing life upon the mural. When I turned around from the mural, I saw the sculpture or display or this kind of artwork made by a Japanese artist. Sculpture or visual art piece reminds me of a tribal burial seen in films. Maybe something like Indiana Jones or something like that. In my opinion, I really don't find this too pleasant because it was very. It gives me a kind of like a creepy vibe, in which I didn't feel really comfortable, especially being having a Chinese heritage and being like from Hong Kong, with a strong sense of this kind of like supernatural stuff and this kind of like mystic beliefs. I didn't find it too comfortable with it.
It was then reappropriated, curated for our generation, for the millennials and Generation Z. The shops and the restaurants, as well as the activities here, are for our generation, and but in contact with its roots and its heritage of fabric, of textiles, of fashion.
After having a walk in the rooftop garden, I went to the annex, which is the floor below, where they are exhibiting artifacts from the past of the mills, like machineries used, tools, and etc. There are also exhibition documentations like skill certificates, safety guidelines, training certificates, etc. The skill certificates are like training course certificates proving that certain individual has grasped that skill, and so they could get more recognition and probably work at a higher position. The exhibition also showed a scaled 3D model of the mill in the past, which will be shown shortly. After visiting the exhibition in the annex, I went to the floor below, and there I saw a lot of bistros and shops. It was very vibrant because there was like a lot of because to attract more customers, they use a lot of gimmicks and staples of Hong Kong, like neon signs and etc. And also because the whole vibe of the building was quite, in a sense, brutalistic, the main structure itself. And so the lights are slightly dimmer than usual, than you would normally expect. And so a lot of the shops, the lights and the neon signs will actually pop more towards the consumer or the visitor's eyes. So it will attract more of their attention, which is a very great thing. But because of COVID, I believe that a lot of people are not actually visiting the mills like it used to be back probably like 2019 or something. After walking through the first floor, I went down to the ground floor where an exhibition of bespoke suits industry of Hong Kong was on display. I find this exhibition very interesting because there was a lot of interesting facts and aspects of suits which I have never seen or known existed. It was really an eye-opener for me. Originally, Hong Kong, or rather Chinese people, don't wear suits. The bespoke suits services were only for foreigners in Hong Kong and Shanghainese who fled from Shanghai due to the civil war occurred in 1945. In 1950, the only people who wore bespoke suits were the wealthy businessmen from Shanghai and foreigners. Suits started to get popular around 1970s and the 1980s where it started to even become dress code for office environment as well as school uniform, as normal suits started to be mass produced instead of being bespoke and tailor-made. That aside, one of the most notable tailors from Hong Kong is Ascot Chang. Ascot Chang was named after the founder, Mr. Ascot Chang. In 1937, Mr. Chang left home at the age of 14 and became a master tailor's apprentice in Shanghai. In 1949, Mr. Chang moved from Shanghai to Hong Kong and started his own business called Ascot Chang. He visited customers door by door, as Shanghai merchants and businessmen can't find good quality shirts according to their strict standards. In 1953, after all the hardships, Mr. Chang opened his first shop in Tsim Sha Tsui, Kimberley Street. It was a 600 square foot shop. In 1969, tourism in Hong Kong fell due to numerous riots happening around that time, and so Mr. Chang took samples of his shirt to America for 3 months for the first time. He visited cities including San Francisco, Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, San Diego, Seattle, Denver, Oklahoma, Dallas, Houston, St. Louis, Kansas, Minneapolis, Chicago, Indiana Borealis, Detroit, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, Atlanta, and Miami. After this business trip, Mr. Chang seems to have found a new market and started to expand his business in coming years. In 1986, Ascot Chang opened its first international shop in 57th Street in New York. After that, after the first shop in New York, he started to expand his business even more across China, Manila, Philippines, and UK and other countries. In 2007, Ascot Chang opened its flagship store, or moved its store towards a flagship store in 110th Central Park in New York. Its total shop size was 5,000 square feet. That was one of the most famous tailors from Hong Kong. One of the notable mentions is that in the 1960s, Hong Kong tailoring industries and tailors were even surpassed London Savile Row's tailors and the tailoring industry, which was the leader of the tailoring industry at the time. So that was a really great feat. The Nanfeng Mill, or textile mill, in a whole, is an important cultural heritage which should never be ignored in the future or forgotten in the future. I'm really thrilled that there are companies and people that are interested in such heritage and starts to reappropriate them for modern purposes and modern audiences. It is also a very sentimental and really close industry in my family, because my grandfather worked as a mill planner, where he would organize how the flow of the workers of the whole operations would go. And my grandmother worked as a worker in a mill in the past, so it showed me how work environment was in their days, and as well as me understanding their occupations a little bit better, as well as me going to know them a little bit better within this experience. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time.